Hey, I'm Nick Filardi. I co-host with Jason Thielbar on the world's second finest podcast. Every week we talk about 90s Bat books, but we also talk comics, movies, books, TV, both new and old, that we love. What you're about to listen to is an unedited version of that conversation. This is the To Read Pile. Jason. Nick. What'd you read this week?
I am still reading The Imposter.
Of course.
It's very affecting. You can listen to the last two read to it's still having the same effect on me, but it's absolutely brilliant. It definitely is in the same vein as like In Cold Blood. Uh, just look up the Wikipedia of In Cold Blood. You can really read it if you want to, but what I am bringing though is one of my favorite books of all time. I think I've read it like 6 or 7 times. Honest to God, 6 or 7, probably more. Is Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut. But not too long ago, Ryan North and Albert Montes did a comic book adaptation of Slaughterhouse-Five, and I
Oh.
immediately bought it because I really like Ryan North, and I'll be honest, I hadn't seen Albert Montes' work before, but when Ryan North was promoting it, I was like, "Wow, this looks really good," and seriously, one of my favorite books ever. And so, Slaughterhouse-Five or The Children's Crusade by Kurt Vonnegut, um, adaptation by Ryan North and Albert Montes. I think this
Nice.
it also ties into what we were talking about previously on the episode. If you're watching this independently, but just talking about violence in general.
Yeah.
Um, and just what Slaughterhouse-Five, I mean, it's a classic, I'm sure a lot of people have read it, but just sort of what it says about war and about violence and what people do to each other, and just God,
Sure.
it's a I mean, it's a fucking masterpiece for a reason. But this comic book adaptation is just so well done, and at every page that I read of it, I was like, man, the people making this love this book as much as I do, and have
Oh, that's
obviously
always
read.
Yeah, that's always
Yeah,
like a really nice feeling, like, "Oh, we're
yeah,
like-minded, we're
y
connected."
yeah. It's like I can just tell, like, oh, they've probably read it like 25 times. Like they've been, like they've been in this, and
Sure,
it's
sure.
always, yeah, it's just always so nice to see with adaptations, especially of books. And it's honest to God too, I think it's kind of a bit ambitious to translate into comic books a somewhat modern book. I mean, I know it came out in the
Sure.
60s, I believe, or I forgot the original publication date of Slaughterhouse-Five, but uh most comic book adaptations will tend to sort of like a classics or like public domain s-
Yeah.
thing, which is understandable for a lot of reasons. But yeah, Slaughterhouse-Five, right?
Hell yeah, dude.
Get it. It's well worth it. I've read this version too, like a couple of times
I
already.
wanna get that version. I didn't know that was a thing that existed.
It
Who put
there
it out? What company?
I can never pronounce their name right. Arcania? Arc
Oh, it's an Arcania book. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
They
Uh,
produce they produce a lot of, like, odd stuff that's kinda book adjacent sometimes, and,
yeah.
yeah, everything I get from them, I always enjoy, but I don't buy a lot from them. I don't
I
know.
I I I feel the same way about them as a publisher, where, like, I've read books that they've put out that I've liked. I've picked up
Right, right.
books that, like, or just even seen books that, like, it's like, you know what? I will give it up to them for this. Like, at any time I think like, "Oh, they're that kind of publisher," I see a book that's wildly different, I go, "Wait, I'm like, "Okay, so I guess they just kinda like they're
I do
true
gotta
blue."
say
Like, if they just like the story, they're like,
right.
"Yeah, let's
They're
let's
like,
go
"Let's do
for
it."
it."
Yeah, right.
Yeah, which is fucking great, which is
There's,
amazing.
they always seem to put a lot of love into the book design as well, like, it's always, like,
Yep.
really nice hardcovers, really nice paper, really like,
Oh,
every
yeah.
Arcania book I've picked up, like, even if I didn't like it as a comic, I've been like, "Oh, this is really nice." Like, the
Oh, yeah.
quality of everything is really nice.
Yeah, it's like, oh, they really like, they honest to God really
They
care, like,
really
they want you
care.
to have
Yeah,
a
yeah.
good object. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Uh, Jason, what's you've known me now for like 30 years,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe a little more. Jason, what's the one thing I always say?
Uh, you always say never try to win a land war in Asia.
Jason, what's the second thing I always say?
Uh, uh, I'm drawing a blank, Nick.
Okay. What
I'm
the one thing I always say is Godzilla noise is what I'm gonna put in here.
okay.
'Cause, I read some Godzilla. Uh,
Oh, fuck yeah.
I read Godzilla: The Half Century War, by James Stoke. We talked about his, Orphan and the Five Beasts book a while back that I read, and I found myself in the comic shop, and I was chatting with the person who was running it, and I was saying that, like, I read that and I would really love to read some more James Stoke, and he's like, "Oh, we got this Godzilla, book, you know, it's actually," he was like, "This is if you were gonna pick one Godzilla book to read, this is the one." He was like, "All the other ones pale in comparison. You should check it out." And I have you watched a lot of Godzilla? Are you a Godzilla fan?
I'm a Godzilla fan. There was I remember one year. I, I'm a Godzilla fan. I I I remember one year that's a treasured memory. Of I was like 13 or 14, and the Sci-Fi Channel was still relatively new. And on New
Yeah.
Year's Eve, they were running a Godzilla marathon, and me and my
Hell
dad
yeah.
were like, yeah, one of the things me and my dad loved doing was just like watching old movies. Like if it was like old and in black and white, we're just like parked in front of it. Like
Nice.
and
Nice.
I remember that, and like I have always had a love for kaiju stories too. Of any, Ultraman and stuff I loved when I was a kid,
Sure.
like that
I,
kind that kind of thing, but not as like deep into the lore as some Godzilla fans can be.
yes,
I'll
yes.
say I'll say that. I'll say that.
So, uh I got into Godzilla, similarly to you, like maybe 5 or so years ago. Uh, I was having Christmas with the in-laws, and they had been putting on either Christmas music or Hallmark Channel, like, nonstop, and we
Yeah,
just needed a break, and
yeah,
so
little palate cleanser.
Comet was running a Godzilla marathon, and,
Hell
like,
yeah.
and it just, like, it hit right at the right time in my life, and I think there was also I started getting into pinball at the same time. There's gonna be connective tissue for this story, by the way. So, one of the things that I like about pinball is that it's so, like, tactile and, like,
Mm,
all the little figures are something that somebody has designed and made, and how it moves is something that's, like, designed and built and made, and
yeah.
so there's kind of, like, beauty in that of,
Well, because
like
there's such little room for error when there's a physical when you're
yeah,
designing, and
right,
when you're saying, I'm gonna have a curved track," and it's like, "Oh, shit, well, it
yes,
can't be that curved," and so, like, yeah, it's
and
the
so
the the precise nature.
I kind of found the same love of, like, crafting a beautiful thing in the Godzilla movies because they craft these, like, beautiful cityscapes that they wire with, like, explosives, and then a guy in a rubber suit, like, fucking annihilates them, and I was
Yeah,
like,
and
"This is so good."
and wasn't it, like, the same guy for the majority of them, right? Was it
For a lot
was
of them, so there's a lot of history with who's in the suit and who does a better Godzilla, and fans will debate it, and, like, I so, anyway,
oh my god,
so
I'm
I
gonna have to look up some of those debates.
so there was, like, I was, like, in and out on a lot of movies, and then after that, every time I saw Comet was running a marathon, I would, like, catch a few here and there. I couldn't even tell you which ones I've seen and which ones I haven't because it was, like, if just on, you know what I mean? Like, it
Yeah,
was and I was
what
paying
was it those
attention.
was it those, original English dubs too?
So
Those, like,
there
sometimes
were
really, really bad English
yes, yes.
dubs?
So there was some, original English dubs, there was a lot of, uh new stuff, old stuff, black and white, color, whatever, whatever
Yeah, yeah.
era. And then, Shannon was gone for a week, my lovely wife. She was gone for a week at work in Gainesville, and I was like, "Well, I got the house to myself. What am I gonna do?" And so I just started watching Godzilla. I I
Just
watched
mainlining some
Yes,
Godzilla.
I watched all the new legendary stuff, King Kong, the 3 Godzilla movies, the Godzilla versus Kong. I
Oh, those are
watched
fun.
I watched the 1998 Godzilla that was terrible that the Americans made. I
That's not so
watched
fun.
the 3 animes that, like, Netflix made that are fucking awful. I
Really?
watched
I didn't
I
even know they
watched,
made them.
uh I watched Shin Godzilla, the new Japanese one, which is fan fucking tastic, Jason. It's
Ooh.
Godzilla versus bureaucracy. It's
Hell
so good.
yes.
It's so
Hell
good.
yes.
Please watch Shin Godzilla. Please. If you take anything
I
away from this, watch Shin Godzilla. Um, anyway, so I started like being like, okay, I'm gonna chip away at the Godzilla movies and eventually like finish them. Um, so I haven't gotten into the other eras of Godzilla quite yet, but safe to say I was a fan, and I was starting to wrap my mind around Godzilla. And so I picked up Half Century War, and this book is about basically a guy that sees Godzilla come out of the water. He's a military guy. They don't know what they're supposed to handle. And, Godzilla comes strolling down the road, and they're in a tank and they're firing at it, and it like messes him up it as in a way where he's like, I gotta see this thing to the end. I want to kill this thing. But Godzilla in this book it's like trying to kill a hurricane, he's an
Oh,
unstoppable force.
yeah. Godzilla Force of Nature. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. So it's
always the
about
thing.
the half century war is this man's personal journey and the way that his government has enabled him as he volunteers into military service to basically fight Godzilla through the years. And it ends with him being old and trying to desperately get Godzilla to pay attention to him. And I won't spoil it, but it's like it's just so good, Jason. It's so good. If you have any
Yeah.
love in your heart for Godzilla, James Stoke draws these beautiful cityscapes that are
Well,
absolutely
yeah.
destroyed.
I was gonna say if he's drawing it, I mean, when you mention the the other orphan and the
Orphan and the Five Beasts.
yeah, when I looked at that art, I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then
James
when you said, oh, and he's drawing Godzilla, I'm like,
he
okay,
drew and
well,
wrote this book, so he's got love of Godzilla too, and he actually there's, extras in the back where he, like, talks about, like, why he made decisions that he made and, like, the
oh, it's
process
awesome.
of trying to get Godzilla, like, right, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and how his editor was, informing him at the time, how they wrote a couple of different endings and then settled on one and why they settled on that one, so if you're into that stuff behind the scenes as well, it's very, very good.
That's
Um
awesome.
yeah, the whole thing is just so, so good, and he has an ability to create, like, a scope of environment, like, as far as, like, size, that I think only
Yeah.
a handful of comic artists are really doing. It's just beautiful. It's like he's the perfect guy for the job, and he just threw himself into it. Yeah, I can't recommend
Yeah.
it enough. It makes me wanna read more Godzilla. It makes me be like, "Oh, maybe the comics are pretty good, actually."
You know what? I bet there's some really kick-ass, Godzilla, manga,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, they're
If
actually yes. So
yeah,
in the '70s, because I went down a rabbit hole of, like, checking out, like, what's the good Godzilla to read? Because I don't know. I'm, like, brand new to
yeah,
this. So,
yeah.
there is a bunch of '70s manga Godzilla stuff. I don't know if it's good to read or not, or if it's even in English, but, like,
Well, I mean,
it's there.
I would also wanna read some of the some of the bad Godzilla, you know? Like, because that stuff is
Probably very fun. Probably
yeah,
very fun.
yeah. Well, and also, you know what? If nothing else, I remember seeing this, a bit of advice from, and Alan Moore has a masterclass apparently, and he was, like, encouraging people to, read terrible books. He's like,
Yeah.
"Read terrible stories," because he's like, it's a much better education in, than reading good stories because a bad a story badly written or badly made, if you can see the glaring mistakes that will teach you what to avoid or the things that you don't like as just aesthetically,
Sure. Sure.
more than the things you like, and it will, help guide you. And then also, like, sometimes it's just really fun.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like
Yeah.
just a
Absolutely.
a thing. Sometimes a thing that is poorly made, but like actually, but that is done. It's done. It's completed. Like they made the bad
Yeah.
movie, they made the
Yeah.
bad
Yeah.
comic
Yeah.
book, they made the bad whatever. It's someone completed it and they put it out, and it's just
Mhm.
really fun to see, like, the attempt and the ambition sometimes,
Yeah.
and it's
So
just such
so
a human
you're reminding me of
experience of,
like
like, "Oh, yeah, you're not always gonna
I
win them all, huh?"
I was putting together we were talking about putting together something. It was some like I was on some media call for one of the IPs that I'm part of. And I was like, as long as we're gonna do things right, like, we can go forward. And then so I think it was my editor said to me, he was like, look, nobody ever sets out to do it wrong. like
Yeah.
like we're gonna
Yeah,
do the
yeah.
best we can. I was like,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's why
yeah, you're right, you're right.
yeah, yeah, that's why remember when Sci-Fi Channel years ago tried to make deliberately bad movies, like all like the
Oh,
Sharknadoes or
yeah,
whatever?
yeah.
And it's like, yeah, man, no, those movies actually suck because you're making this like winking nod at like a thing. Like the reason why people liked The Room is that like clearly Tommy Wiseau was like something like that happened to him, but he didn't know how to write a script, but he wrote one anyway
Yeah,
and did
right,
all this
right.
and like
There's a
and
there's a
earnestly
place of
made
like
it.
yeah, the earnestness of it.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So it's like, yeah, that's a very really good, yeah, no one ever sets out to
Make
fuck
up
up.
something
You
bad. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
so, I have some bonus stuff that we can talk about if you're interested.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I am up to I didn't want this is gonna be probably on the YouTube channel, but not on the regular pod. I am now up to volume 6 on Chainsaw Man. It's
Yeah,
still
you
fucking
were texting
awesome.
me.
Yeah,
It's got
yeah.
its hook it's got
We
its, chain
It's got
hooks
its
into
chainsaws into me. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's got its chainsaws into you,
I've
man.
become the Chainsaw Man, Jason.
You
I
must become the chainsaw man.
I, I love it. It's very good. We don't really have to get into it because I know there's gonna be a point when I finish it because it's 11 volumes, and that's the
Oh,
first
so it's
part.
it's already completed, the whole story?
So, the 11 volumes are finished. The first part is finished, and then they're doing a break, and then while they're on
Oh.
break, I guess, Viz Entertainment, who's putting it out, is publishing a lot of the stuff that the, artist whose name escapes me right now, um, stuff that he did before Chainsaw Man that is very different, like some of his short
Oh.
stories and stuff like that. So those are coming out right now.
Some slice of life stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, I don't
You
know what's
know?
in there. It could be slice of life stuff. I don't know.
Oh
Um,
god.
so right now that's coming out. No new Chainsaw Man's coming out, but there is going to be more Chainsaw Man down the way. So if you do want to jump into it, now is the time to jump into it. I ended up like coincidentally at the comic shop and I was like, "Oh, they've got I had purchased up to 5, volume 5, and they had 7 and 8." And I was like, "Well, I'm just gonna get it because I like to shop at a comic shop rather than shop online if I can help it." And
Yeah,
then I
yeah. Of course.
so then I went online to order 6, and then I was like, "I might as well just throw the rest of them in there." Like, because they're only like $7 a pop, you know what I mean?
Oh,
So
okay,
it's
well,
like
that's not so bad then,
it's
that's
like
not so bad.
throw the next 3 in the cart. Let's just finish it off because it's that
Yeah.
good. And I've been really enjoying it. The other thing that I read is Sunburn. Um, this is Andy Watts and Simon Gani. It's I assume he's French. I don't know how he pronounces his last name.
Oh, I think it might
Um,
be Simone. Yeah, Andy Watson and yeah, yeah, yeah. Is
they
it
just put out a book called Paris.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I do want to read Paris. The comic shop just happened to have like this one on display, Sunburn. So I was like, oh, I wanted to read Paris. This is by the same team. I'll pick this up. I'll try it out. Uh, Connective tissue, a little bit here. The artist. Uh, what, Simon, Jason,
I
I'm gonna say it's Simon every time, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Uh, he actually did a bunch of Godzilla work as well. So it's wild because this book is like you were saying, you were joking around. This book is a slice of life stuff, and it's like he's doing Godzilla and slice of life comic books. This is about a girl probably in the late 50s, early 60s who a friend, like an acquaintance of her parents, decide that they're going to bring her out from like the New England area to Greece for the summer. And she kind of like sees it these people as very glamorous, rich, interesting people. They're bringing her to like these parties and stuff. They give her a little bit of wine, that kind of thing. And she doesn't realize that she's kind of being used by them in a particular way that I'm not going to spoil.
Mhm.
For all the stuff that I normally read, you're like, "Oh, they're cannibals." No, 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 no. It's very slice of life.
Yeah.
It's people being people more than anything else. But
Yeah,
it's a
yeah, I brought up,
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful book. A lot of Grecian countrysides and, you
oh, yeah,
know
the art's amazing. I've been meaning to pick up their collaborated, books because I do love Andy Watson. I brought up an Andy Watson book on, the to read pile,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
a little while back, his graphic novel, The Book Tour.
Yeah,
I so
that's what put Andy, like, back on my
Okay.
radar. So
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like
do you
and then I saw
yeah.
this in the shop and I was like, "I'm just gonna impulse buy it." Like, I don't know what it is, but bring it on. And it's very, very
Yeah.
good, very enjoyable. Uh, a chill time. I don't know if I'm gonna reread it. And there was definitely points where I was like, the colorist in me was freaking the fuck out because the art is so good. Like the line art is so good, and they're doing a limited palette with it that is sometimes flattening it out a little. And I get why they're doing
Mm.
limited palette because that's a little easier to kind of wrap your brain around. And then if you're doing all of the art yourself, like trying to do full color on top of that is just like a monumental task. So it kind of streamlines it.
Yeah.
The book can actually get made this way, rather than not coming out at all.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but
Well, and
uh,
it's also it's helpful to have, limitations sometimes, like,
yes,
like, what you're good so you don't spend, like, 25 hours on a page, like, "Oh, I have to get it just." It's like,
right.
let's put
Um,
the color palette here, and then it'll be
but
what
there
it'll
were,
be, and
but
we'll
there were
work
points where
from
it
what we
was
can do.
like, you know, beautiful Grecian countryside, and I was like, "Oh, I just want this to feel warm." Like, I just want this like, I like, my colorist brain was like, "This would be fantastic if it was just different," you know? Uh,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and,
yeah,
Simone, I did it right then. Simon, I
yeah.
did it wrong
Well
then.
I don't know well, see, I don't know, I'm just saying
Oh, really?
well,
Yeah, well,
because they are French,
yes.
but then I don't know French, so I don't know Simone's gender or
Yeah,
Simon's gender. You know what I mean?
that's
So
it.
I don't know if it's
I had just
gendered
assumed
or
gender too. I have no idea.
and I think and I'm only vaguely remembering because I remember, Andy Watson, like, on Twitter, like, he's promoting these collaborations, like, "Oh, that
Yeah.
looks great," and I think he referred to her, like, me and I'm not
Oh,
this again, these are vague memories. I was trying
okay.
to look it up.
Well,
If you saw me
well,
typing before, I was trying to look it up, but regardless.
so, Simone Gagne, was also the artist on an image book called, They're Not Like Us.
Oh, yeah,
I don't know if
yeah.
you've ever read that?
No, it kept on I remember it kept on getting, like, I would see it promoted,
Yeah.
but it just
So, I would pick up that book. It's kind of like hipster X-Men, that book. Um, I read the first couple trades. Jordy Belair does the colors in that, and she is a coloring genius. Like, she's excellent. Um, and so, like, part of my struggle with Sunburn was that I know how it can look, Like,
yeah.
I
Yeah,
know that
yeah,
when you
yeah.
put it in, like, the hands of, like, a competent colorist, like Jordy, I mean, Jordy knocks everything out of the park, she's fantastic, but, like, I I know it could be just like a little better. Like push me a little further into this. I was like, I just want to feel warm, Jason. I just want to be on vacation.
Yeah,
Basically, is what
yeah.
it is.
It's just must be like how, like, like professional chefs feel when they watch, like, one of those competition shows, and they're like, "Oh, what are you doing? What are you
Yeah,
doing?"
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
they probably know better, but like you said,
Sure.
the choices you have to make, just like, "I'm gonna
Sure.
stick with this to for these reasons," and I'm sure there's stylistic reasons too, but also practical, I want
Yes.
the book to come
Yes.
out at some point reasons as well that,
Yes. So,
yeah.
uh, I would say pick up Sunburn and probably pick up Paris. I haven't read it yet, but I'm gonna look for it at the comic shop. I'll
Yeah,
probably get it eventually.
yeah.
And I also want to pick up uh, Simone Gagne's Godzilla stuff because apparently that's who I am now.
Hey, man, you can't go wrong with Godzilla.
uh,
I think even very casual people, if you're like, "Hey, what do you think about Godzilla?" They're like, "I fucking love Godzilla." Like, yeah,
why are you asking the average Long Islander like
because it's a good litmus test,
okay,
you
all
know?
right, dude. Man, Stoke like opens that Godzilla book is so good. It's Stoke opens with like the introduction of Godzilla, and he admits that he cribbed a lot of it from the original Godzilla movie, and he's like basically when you do a retelling of Godzilla, you're cribbing from that original movie from 1957. Like
Yeah.
it's just the way it is. But
Yep,
like
that happened.
he he does it in such a way where like I could I could hear Godzilla in my brain as I was reading it. It was unbelievable. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Love it.
That is
Love it.
awesome. Yeah, that's always great.
Yeah. I anecdotally, I'm gonna tell a quick story since we're,
Mhm.
you know, running this a little long for the YouTube. Uh I took 6 this is why I was like coincidentally in the comic shop. I took 6 short boxes of comps that I got since the pandemic started.
Mm.
Uh, they've just been piling up and piling up and piling up, and it was stuff that's like, you know, I don't know anyone wants the Wonder Woman annual from 2 years ago at a Comic Con at this point, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It was like
yeah.
stuff that I couldn't really move at a show. I was just looking to get it into a good home, and I brought it to
Yeah.
the shop to be like, "Hey, do you guys want this? Can you just take this?" And they were like, we're really only buying Silver Age right now," and I was like, "Alright, alright." And this guy came in, and he was like, uh this dude came in, he was a regular. The person who runs the shop, Allison, over at Comic Envy, was like, "That guy likes free stuff." And he was like, "Yeah, what do you got?" And I was like, it's like, "Oh, I got comps." And he's like, "What are comps?" And I was like, so I show him, right? And he was like, "Oh yeah, load them up." He was like, "Let's go."
Mhm.
So I took the he was like, "I have a 9-year-old uh I have a 9-year-old son. All his friends read comic books. They will flip the fuck out about this because it's all like Batman, Wonder Woman, stuff like that, like
Yeah, yeah,
DC
yeah.
stuff that I've worked on over the years." And he's
Yeah.
like, anything that they don't pick out of this stuff, out of this pile, he's like, "I'll find good homes for." And then he was like, he worked for the Astral radio station. He gave me his card, and he's like, actually, he was like, "I got a set of bookshelf speakers in the car. Do you want to do a trade? Do you want those?" And I was like, "Sure, fuck yes, let's go."
That's fucking awesome.
I have a receiver that needed bookshelf speakers, so I'm like, hell yeah, totally worked out, totally worked out.
Man, that's fucking great.
Yeah.
That is a wonderful story. It also brings up, honest to God, one of my favorite activities, which is just giving comic books to people. Like
Oh
recently,
yeah,
I had a friend message me, and she was like, "Oh, like, hey, are you going to be at this thing? I have some books to give back to you." I was like, "Oh yeah." I'm like, "Wait, what I let you have?" And she's like, "This and this." I'm like, "Yeah, keep them." She's like,
yeah,
"You sure?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "No, I give you comic books because you love comic books, and I want as many people to love comic books, even close to I do." And also,
right.
like, I think sometimes people who aren't as, let's say, sick as we are, really,
Comic book perverts. Is that what you're trying to say, Jason? Let's not
yeah, sure,
dance
let's go
around
with,
it. Let's not
yeah,
dance around it.
yeah, no, direct. I might be a pervert, but I'm direct. Wait, no, that doesn't sound good either.
That doesn't no, that's not what I want.
It sounds worse. Oh God, it's getting worse. Uh, but it's just nice. It's just a nice feeling uh to share that, to try to get someone
Absolutely.
close. Like if someone's excited about it and they're like, and it's great that like, of course my friends are like, "Oh, give you this back." I'm like, "No, but I just want you to like the book." And like,
Yeah.
and also I don't think you understand the amount that I have and I need room for
Right.
more, so
Right.
get more
Dude,
also. So it's a selfish thing too.
it's disappeared and it's been replaced by trade paperbacks that I've that I've
Yeah.
already put up there. This is the thing. You remind me of a friend of a friend started reading comics when we were in Florida, and uh she had like just started reading comics and she read a couple trade paperbacks of Why the Last Man, and she was like, this is really good. Like this, she's like, I didn't know comics could be like that. And I was like, here's the rest of them. Just like brought a stack in. And I was like,
Oh
read them
yeah.
whenever, give them back to me, don't give them back to me, whatever. Just enjoy them, you know?
Oh yeah, my good friend Pat. That I give him. I mean, he's always loved comic books, and like, yeah, I give him give them all the time. If I have a
Yeah.
stack that like I
Yeah.
think he'll like, and also I'm just like kind of trying to make room. I'll text him and be like, hey man, where you at? You want some comic books you haven't read? And he's always like, fuck yeah, and he always
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah yeah. It's just man,
Ambassadors of the medium. It's important. It's
yeah,
important.
it is. God, I love comic books.
Jason,
Nicholas.
where can people reach you?
People can reach me on the Twitters still. I'm sort of sliding out of there a little bit, but still on the Twitters at King of Black Acid. Also, this podcast, which I still have to get better at promoting on the day our podcast actually drops in the feed
Hey,
on
promote it
Twitter.
any day you want to, any and every day. New post every
But
day. Fine, whatever. Who cares?
we're also on Twitter at World Second Finest. That's World Second Finest with the two
Yep,
up in that name, the numeral.
yep.
And I believe Nick is also on Twitter on Live Journal still probably.
The live
Um,
journal.
no, I'm sorry. You're too
People,
goth for that. You're on Dead
people
Journal.
can.
Remember
Yeah.
Dead Journal?
No, I don't remember Dead Journal.
Because Live Journal was open source.
You can
Like,
find me. You can find me on Live Journal. You can find me on Makeout Club. You can find me on.
oh, I totally forgot about Makeout Club. I was
uh,
never on that, but I totally forgot about that. Oh God,
so
what a wild time the internet.
yeah, yeah. You can find me on Linktree/Nick Phil. I'm also on Twitter at Nick Phil. I'm on YouTube and Twitch at Nick Phil. I just did I flattered an Andy Kubert X-Men thing on Twitch just yesterday.
Hmm.
Uh, it was a very chill stream. There's no like real art that came out of it because it's really just I'm just prepping the piece basically. But
Yeah,
like
yeah.
still just hung out, chit chatted, talked about Batman. It was a good time,
Yeah, as you do. Fuck
as
yeah.
you do. Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, everybody.